Arthur Sterling, 35, CEO of Apex Innovations, lived in a sleek London townhouse, a monument to his success. But behind the facade, he was trapped. His phone buzzed with 12 missed calls from his father, David Sterling, and a text that chilled him. Board meeting moved to Tuesday. Grandfather's trust provisions still in effect. Hope you have positive news about your personal life, son. The Sterling Family Trust, a staggering £70 million, demanded Arthur marry by his 36th birthday, an archaic provision for unblemished lineage. 8 months remained, and his dating life was a disaster. "Arthur, my boy," David's voice, a mix of pride and dissatisfaction, filled the line. "The board's concerned. Perhaps practical arrangements?" "Practical arrangements?" Arthur echoed, dreading the implication. "Eleanor Vance has expressed renewed interest. Her divorce was finalized. Our families have known each other for decades." Arthur shuddered. Eleanor was calculating, and he'd rebuffed her in university. Marrying her for security made his skin crawl, but the alternative was ruin. "I'll handle it, father," Arthur said, his voice firm. He stared at his reflection, a successful man in a gilded cage. Fighting the trust meant years of legal battles, millions in fees, and public humiliation. A desperate, audacious idea sparked: a fake fiancée, someone to convince his family and the board, then disappear. He searched for actresses in London, aware of the madness. But desperation was his oldest innovation. Arthur's family estate in Surrey steeped him in generations of wealth and social climbing. Sunday lunches were choreographed performances, every conversation designed to uphold their status. "The Vances have always been suitable partners," David would say. "Lineage matters. Breeding, education, connections." Arthur's dating history reflected this preference for good families, wealthy, white, socially connected. Their casual racism was ingrained. Inner city problems, those people, and concerns about declining neighborhood standards were common. His friends reinforced these attitudes. At galas, he moved among men who were unconsciously dismissive of anyone outside their bubble. "I don't understand how he can date that woman," Marcus Thorne, his closest friend, once whispered, referring to an acquaintance seeing a black architect. "What will people think? Their children?" Arthur nodded, complicit. His world was small, exclusive, but desperation forced him to question. He realized his social circle was too tight for deception. His chosen fiancée needed to be unexpected. The classified ad was careful. Professional actress needed for short-term engagement. High society functions, excellent compensation. Discretion essential, he added, seeking someone outside my usual social circle for authenticity. It was practical, he told himself, but a deeper shift was happening. Auditions were in his intimidating corporate conference room. He'd narrowed 53 candidates to 15. The first 10 were predictable, white, affluent, seamlessly blendable. Competent, but too familiar. He needed someone truly outside his sphere. The 12th candidate changed everything. Imani Kendi entered with quiet confidence, immediately commanding attention. At 33, she carried herself with easy poise. Her tailored suit and vibrant African scarf hinted at understated success. "Mr. Sterling," she said, her warm smile reaching intelligent dark eyes. "Thank you for considering me." Arthur felt his preconceptions shift. Her grip was firm, her gaze direct, unwavering. Her headshot hadn't captured her presence. "Tell me about your acting background," he said. 12 years of stage work. "Primarily classical theater," Imani replied. "Shakespeare, August Wilson, some independent film and corporate training." "And you're comfortable with high society social functions?" Arthur asked, the unintended undertone hanging in the air. Amusement flickered in her eyes. "I've attended my share of galas, board meetings, diplomatic receptions. I can navigate formal social situations with ease." Arthur searched for discomfort, for uncertainty. He found only composure and intelligence. "The compensation would be substantial," he said, naming a figure that usually widened eyes. Imani simply nodded. "And the timeline?" 8 months, potentially less. Social functions, family gatherings, business events, a convincing portrayal of a romantic relationship. Convincing. Imani's tone was professional. Arthur flushed. Physical affection appropriate for an engaged couple, hand-holding, brief kisses, anything more intimate would be discussed. I see. Imani replied, unreadable. And after 8 months, the engagement ends amicably. You'd be free, with excellent references and additional compensation for your discretion. Imani leaned back, studying him. Why a fake fiancé, Mr. Sterling? Her directness surprised him. Family trust requirements. I need to be married by 36 to access my inheritance. This seemed more practical than rushing into a real marriage. With someone unsuitable. Imani nodded slowly. And you think I'm suitable for this deception? I think you're professional enough, Arthur replied, already realizing Imani Kendi might be more than he'd bargained for. The contract signing in his barrister's office reeked of old money. Arthur insisted on documentation, though he suspected Imani found it amusing. Imani reviewed every page meticulously. Arthur was impressed by her legal acumen when she requested modifications. I'd like to add a clause about mutual respect. Imani said, this arrangement requires trust. I need assurance I'll be treated as an equal partner, not hired help. The request stung, revealing Arthur's unconscious assumptions. Of course, he said quickly. And boundaries about public displays of affection. Imani continued, hand-holding and brief kisses are fine, but anything more intimate discussed beforehand. Arthur's face warmed at the clinical tone, the personal implications dawning on him. That's reasonable, he agreed, signing with unsteady hands. Their first test came 4 days later at the National Gallery's gala. Imani arrived at his townhouse in a stunning sapphire gown, transforming her presence. You look dashing, she said, offering her arm. Arthur felt unexpectedly nervous. Remember, he briefed as they entered. Dating 9 months, engaged last month. You're a consultant in cultural heritage. We met at an art exhibition. Relax, Imani replied, her hand warm and steady. I've got this. But Arthur's anxiety was justified. Marcus Thorne approached with barely concealed shock. Arthur, old chap, you didn't mention you were bringing someone. Marcus, I'd like you to meet my fiancée, Imani Kendi, Arthur said, surprised by how natural it felt. Imani extended her hand with a warm smile. It's a pleasure, Marcus. Arthur has told me so much about you. Marcus's response was a masterclass in polite racism, a too-wide smile, eyes cataloging Imani, a subtle shift in posture. How wonderful, he said, undertones chilling Arthur. And how did you two meet? Imani smoothly narrated their agreed-upon story. It was believable, touching, delivered with such sincerity, Arthur almost believed it. But Marcus's expression remained unconvinced. How interesting, he said, clearly disinterested. As Marcus moved away, Arthur felt relief and embarrassment. Imani seemed unaffected by the subtle hostility, guiding him to the bar. He's not what I expected, Imani observed quietly. He's usually more welcoming, Arthur said defensively. I'm sure he is, Imani replied with gentle irony, hinting at deeper understanding of people he considers appropriate for you. The morning after the gala, a deluge of calls confirmed Arthur's fears. His father's panicked voice. Son, I've had 4 calls already, about your new friend. Discuss this in person. Her name is Imani Kendi, father, and yes, we should discuss this. The emergency lunch was at David's private club. David and Aunt Caroline formed a united front. Tell us about this woman, David demanded. Her background, her family, her prospects. Arthur explained Imani was a well-educated, successful cultural heritage consultant sharing his values. But what's her background? Caroline pressed. Where did she grow up? What do her parents do? These things matter. The questions revealed assumptions Arthur had never examined. He found himself passionately defending Imani. She's intelligent, kind, and treats me with respect, Arthur insisted. Those qualities matter more than your social checklist. David's expression softened slightly, but concern remained. You must consider the practical implications. The board meeting is next week. Can she handle that level of scrutiny? This struck Arthur's own doubts. A board meeting was different. She can handle anything you throw at her, Arthur said, more confident than he felt. You might be surprised. Leaving the club, Arthur questioned his choices. The board included ruthless men. If they suspected deception, his company was bankrupt. His phone buzzed. Imani. How did lunch go? Need to debrief before the board meeting. The message, assuming his need for support, dissolved Arthur's anxiety. He had a partner. Meet me at my office at 4. He replied. Prepare for the wolves. Imani's response. Looking forward to it. We've got this. Her confidence made him realize he'd stopped seeing her as hired help. Imani arrived at his office that evening with takeout from a Ghanaian restaurant. Her presence transformed the sterile space into something warm. She wore jeans and a colorful kaftan, seeming more approachable. I thought you might be hungry, she said, unpacking food. Eat while we strategize. Arthur hadn't eaten all day. That's thoughtful. As they shared jollof of rice and spiced chicken, he asked about her. Where did you grow up? Brixton, Imani replied warmly. My father was a community organizer. My mother a midwife. 2 younger brothers. Both think they're more successful. More successful? Dr. Kian Kendi, lead researcher at Imperial College, Imani said proudly. Malik Kendi, who just opened his 3rd tech startup. I'm the family artist/consultant. Arthur stared. This completely reframed her. You come from overachievers, and you're calling yourself a disappointment? My parents wanted stable careers, Imani explained. They lived through civil rights struggles, economic uncertainty. They wanted us to have security. Acting seemed frivolous then, but you chose it, Arthur observed, recognizing the courage. I chose it because I love it, and I'm good at it. Imani replied. But I also consult in cultural heritage, which is why I can discuss business strategy with your board. The revelation she possessed actual expertise both reassured and disappointed him. Why this job? He asked. You don't desperately need the money, and this deception seems beneath your qualifications. Imani considered. Curiosity, mostly. I wanted to understand what would drive a successful man to hire a fake fiancée. And what have you concluded? That you're trapped by expectations that only benefit those controlling your choices. Imani replied gently. And that you're braver than you give yourself credit for, but scared of disappointing people who've never sacrificed as you do. The insight hit Arthur hard. That's quite an analysis for someone who's known me a week. I'm a good observer of human nature, Imani said. It's what makes me a decent actor and a good consultant. People reveal themselves under pressure, how they treat others, what they risk. And what do you think I want? Arthur asked, more vulnerable now. Imani leaned forward. I think you want to be seen and valued for who you are, not just what you represent. You want to make choices based on your own values, not inherited expectations. And you want to be loved for reasons that have nothing to do with your trust fund or social connections. The accuracy left him speechless. That's a lot to want. It's what everyone deserves, Imani replied with conviction. The question is whether you're willing to risk your current life for something real. The Sterling board meeting was in their Mayfair law offices. Arthur entered with Imani, acutely aware of the stakes. Gentlemen, David announced, I'd like you to meet Arthur's fiancée, Imani Kendi. A ripple of shock. Ms. Kendi. Bartholomew Vance, the chairman, extended his hand with underlying menace. We weren't expecting this. Imani met his grip calmly. Mr. Vance, it's an honor. I'm sure it is, Bartholomew replied dryly. Tell us about your background. Arthur's stomach clenched. These men were ruthless. I work in cultural heritage consulting, Imani replied smoothly. Masters from SOAS, 12 years experience. The lie sounded real. SOAS? Harold Sterling, Arthur's great-uncle, raised an eyebrow. What year? Class of 2017, Imani said without hesitation. Arthur held his breath, knowing Harold's daughter was from SOAS. And your family? Pressed Julian Thorne. What line of work? My father was a community organizer. My mother worked in healthcare, Imani said, sticking to the truth. The interrogation lasted 30 minutes, covering everything. Arthur watched, admiring her composure. She was never defensive, never apologetic. Well, Bartholomew said finally. This is unexpected. We'll need time to discuss the implications for the trust. What implications? Arthur asked. The trust was established to ensure appropriate marriages within suitable social circles. Harold explained clinically. We'll need to determine whether Ms. Kendi meets the criteria. The euphemism barely hid the racism. With respect, sir, Imani interjected, steel in her voice. What specific criteria determine suitability beyond mutual love and respect? The challenge hung in the air. Family background, shared values, social compatibility, Julian offered weakly. All of which Arthur and I possess, Imani replied with quiet authority. If there are other criteria, state them clearly. Arthur felt a surge of pride. The board will deliberate and provide our decision within 30 days, Bartholomew announced, eager to end it. Leaving, Arthur felt admiration and terror. Imani had been magnificent. That went better than I expected, he said. Did it? Imani asked, thoughtful. I got the distinct impression they've already decided to reject me based on factors that have nothing to do with my qualifications or character. The casual way she acknowledged the racism was heartbreaking. I'm sorry, he said quietly. Don't apologize for their ignorance, Imani replied. But decide what you're willing to fight for, because this won't get easier. The rejection came 1 week later, a formal letter. Arthur's hands trembled. The board has determined that the proposed union does not meet the criteria, it stated. Alternative arrangements must be made. Arthur called Imani, rage and disappointment shaking his voice. They rejected us. They rejected you because you're black. I'm sorry, Arthur, Imani said. I know how much this meant. It's not over, Arthur replied fiercely. There has to be another way. Legal challenges, something. Are you sure you want to fight? Imani asked gently. It could take years, cost hundreds of thousands, no guarantee. Arthur stared at the London skyline. Accept defeat? Marry Eleanor? Or fight? I want to fight, he said, but I can't ask you to continue the charade while I wage war. You're not asking, Imani replied. I'm offering. If you're willing to fight, I'll stand with you. This loyalty cracked Arthur's composure. You don't owe me anything, he said. Maybe I've gotten invested in seeing justice done. Imani said, a deeper motivation in her voice. Or maybe I've grown to care about your happiness more than I expected. The admission transformed their conversation. Arthur's heart accelerated. Imani, he said quietly, are we still pretending? I stopped pretending around the time you defended me to your father, Imani replied. I'm not sure when you stopped, Arthur closed his eyes. I think I stopped when you made me realize I'd been living my entire life according to other people's expectations. So what do we do now? Imani asked, vulnerability in her voice. I think we figure out what we actually want, Arthur replied, clear now, free of trusts, family, and pressure. And what do you want, Arthur Sterling? I want to run my company without worrying about losing everything for personal choices. He said, I want to choose my partner based on how she treats me, not what my family thinks of her pedigree, and I want to be loved for who I am, not what I represent. Those are good ones, Imani said softly, worth fighting for. What about you? Arthur asked. I want to stop taking acting jobs that compromise my dignity, Imani replied. I want to build something meaningful with someone who sees my value beyond my utility. And I want to wake up every morning next to someone who chooses me for reasons that have nothing to do with contracts or social expectations. Their parallel desires created perfect understanding. Their fake relationship had evolved into something neither anticipated but both had been seeking. So we fight the trust, Arthur said, his decision solid, together as real partners. Together, Imani agreed, though fighting institutional racism and family expectations is harder than pretending. I'm ready, Arthur replied, but I have one condition. What's that? When we appear in public as a couple, it's not for show. It's because we choose to be together, whatever the consequences. I can live with that, Imani said, a smile in her voice. In fact, I was hoping you'd suggest it. The charity gala for digital literacy became Arthur's public declaration of authenticity. They arrived, Arthur in a black tuxedo, Imani in a stunning emerald green gown. The ballroom fell silent. "Arthur, darling," Eleanor Vance approached. "You look radiant. Marriage must agree with you." "Thank you, Eleanor," Arthur replied, noting her calculating gaze. "I heard about the trust situation," Eleanor continued with false sympathy. "Such a shame when family businesses are complicated by unfortunate personal choices." "Actually, it's working out exactly as it should," Arthur countered. "I've learned some things are more valuable than money, and principles are worth more than social acceptance." Bartholomew Vance approached. "Arthur, reconsider your position. The threat was clear. Abandon Imani, accept Eleanor, secure the trust." "Bartholomew," Arthur said, steel in his voice, "any arrangement requiring me to deny my own worth isn't practical at all." Imani's hand on his back gave him courage. "I'd like to make an announcement," Arthur said, his voice carrying. The ballroom quieted. "Many of you know I've been facing challenges related to my family's trust requirements," he began, steady despite the magnitude. "Requirements that would have me choose a wife based on social acceptability rather than love, compatibility, or character." Murmurs rippled. "I want you all to know that I've chosen love over money, authenticity over acceptance, and partnership over privilege," he continued, taking Imani's hand. "Imani and I are married because we love each other, because we respect each other, and because we believe that's the only foundation worthy of building a life together." Silence, then scattered applause from staff, younger guests, and a few older attendees. "Furthermore," Arthur continued, confidence growing, "I want to publicly thank those who've shown me through their reactions exactly what values they prioritize. It's been enlightening." David pushed through the crowd. "Arthur, this is neither the time nor the place for family drama," he hissed, mortified. "You're right, Father," Arthur replied calmly. "But standing up for love and equality isn't drama, it's character. The exchange played out before London's elite." "You're destroying everything," David said desperately. "Your reputation, your business, your future, all for what? Teenage rebellion?" "At 35, I'm building something better," Arthur replied with quiet conviction. "A life based on authentic values, a marriage based on mutual respect, and a future I can be proud of, regardless of who approves." As they left, Arthur felt complete alignment between his public and private self. "No regrets?" Imani asked. "None," Arthur replied. "For the first time, I feel like I'm actually living instead of just performing." 1 year later, Arthur stood in the kitchen of their South London maisonette, watching Imani prepare dinner. The house was smaller than his old townhouse, but it felt more like home, filled with books, art, and the laughter of Imani's brothers. "The financial projections look good," he said, reviewing documents. "Better than good. We might hire 2 more employees next quarter." Arthur's new company, Sterling, Kendi Consulting, was built after he sold Apex Innovations to pay legal fees. It was profitable and personally satisfying. "I'm proud of you," Imani said, her warmth surprising him still. "Building something meaningful, doing work that helps people, it suits you." The trust battle was lost. The discriminatory provisions were legally enforceable. Arthur lost £70 million, but gained the knowledge he could succeed on his own merits. "Any regrets about that Hollywood film role?" he asked. "Only that I didn't turn it down sooner," Imani replied. "Though I admit, cultural heritage consulting pays better when you're not splitting your time with fringe theater." Imani now worked for a diversity and inclusion consulting firm, pursuing acting projects she truly loved. "Speaking of community," Arthur said, gesturing to tickets pinned to the fridge, "your mother called. She and your father want to know if we're coming to Kian's promotion party next month." The easy integration into Imani's family was an unexpected joy. "Of course we're going, love," she replied, though Kian's been asking when we're going to give him nieces and nephews to spoil. The topic of children had become frequent. "And what do you tell him?" Arthur asked. "I tell him we're still enjoying being newlyweds who can travel on a whim and sleep in on weekends." Imani grinned. but we're open to whatever the future brings. Arthur smiled, recognizing the perfect balance in their marriage. David called yesterday. He wants to have lunch next week. The relationship with his father was slowly healing, helped by David's grudging admission that Imani was pleasant, and his growing recognition that Arthur's happiness mattered more. "Are you ready for that?" Imani asked, understanding the complex emotions. "I think so," Arthur replied thoughtfully. "I'm finally at a place where I can love him without needing his approval and accept his limitations without taking them personally." As they prepared dinner, Arthur reflected on his transformation. "Do you ever miss it?" Imani asked. "The money, social position, inherited privilege." "I miss the security," he admitted, "but I don't miss the price I had to pay for it. And I definitely don't miss the person I was when I thought other people's approval determined my worth." "Who are you now?" Imani asked. Arthur smiled. "I'm someone who chooses love over convenience, authenticity over acceptance, and partnership over privilege. I'm someone who believes that building something meaningful with the right person is worth more than maintaining something hollow for the wrong reasons." "Those are good things to be," Imani said, pulling him into her arms, their fake kisses now real love that had changed everything. In their kitchen, filled with the warmth of home and the promise of a future built on mutual respect and authentic love, Arthur felt the deep satisfaction of knowing he'd chosen correctly.